Okay, so I think I came up with what will be the most efficient plan for you to do, putting in all the mass amount of students. I tried to have it automatically, like do the photo grid, didn't work well. It wasn't spacing correctly in between to put the captions in. We can automate the captions and fairly automate putting in the photos, but I was looking for the least amount of work or confusion for you and the most efficient process given I don't know how many people there are, but I imagine it's a decent amount. So I'm going to walk you through what I set up. If you have questions later, let me know once you start doing this. There's also the one question mark of I don't know what data comes with each photo. If you want to send me a photo so I can try it out, or send me a bunch of photos so I can try it out, we can find out. So you may need to do a tiny bit of work on changing the name unless that data is there. And I'll show you as we put this in. So to start with, we want to apply the student photo master, which has been set up for this. So I'm going to go ahead, copy, and I have to do it to both of them, so it'll take a second before it looks normal. You'll notice all these red blocks. You can't click on them by default, and I'll explain how to change that. But these are basically photo frames, and you'll notice there's a little thicker space than I've done in previous spots in order to give us space to put the student's name. All right. In order to be able to actually put things in these slots, we need to come over here and click on this and go to override all master page options. So do keep in mind that while it'll keep all the master page options and it won't mess up the pagination, these are now editable and they won't be that on other pages. Did I actually click? I need to actually click it. And so keep that part in mind. Why are you not editing? All right, there we go. I just didn't have the page selected. So make sure when you're doing this, you actually have the page selected. It's being a little touchy here. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. You want to make sure that these now they're editable, so don't accidentally touch them. If you want, even you can go in and lock them, but just so you're aware. But these are also now selectable. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can place the images. I'm working from just a set of images I have. Your portraits will work better. By default, I set these up to fill proportionally, so even if the photo is large, it'll rescale to fit the space. So I'm going to go ahead and select the photos that I have. This is from a class I was working on, and I already know which you get, I believe 32 on a page. So I'm going to hit, I've selected them all. I just use shift to select. You could use a similar thing on yours. You also could, individually select, but I'm going to guess you have them in a folder all in order. So I'm going to go ahead and click open. It's going to think I'm going to see the preview of the first one, and then all I want to do is click in each one. Again, a photo grid would have already just filled. The problem was getting this larger margin just wasn't possible, and you would have to manually correct it on each one, which seemed like more work to me, not less. So you'll go ahead, you'll notice it's even if the image is like wider rather than tall, it's making it work for the space as best it can. If I noticed anything was off, I can, because like this one cuts off her head, for example, because yours will be more consistent, but I can always go in and alter that, but I just can go through here and quickly place them. I mean, it takes a second, but it's not terrible. But yeah, if you at any point want, like this one obviously is bigger, you can always come in and tweak if you need to, if you're not happy with how it frames. I would imagine it would be more likely a problem potentially on senior photos than the individual portraits. The next thing we want to do, we want to set up the default for the caption. Now, I'm going to try to do it for all the files before you get it. However, if it doesn't, now you'll know how to do it. I want to come up here to object and go down to captions, caption setup. And here's where it would be helpful to know what metadata you have. I don't know what is in your photo without looking at it. So maybe there's a better option to choose. Right now, I've been relying on the file name, in which case I think yours are probably named with numbers or something. Maybe that's not the best option, so you may want to go in here and change this. Or you just change the name of the file to the student's name. One or the other. I don't know how your files are coming. You could go in and see with this data if there's one of these that makes more sense. But I'm selecting name for this purpose. I want it to align below the image, and I'm going to say 0.02 for the offset. And then paragraph style, we already have defaults built in, so I'm going to go ahead and say underclassman name is black. Layer will go in same as image, and then I'm going to group the caption and image together just to make sure they stay together. Otherwise, if I move one, I'll have to reshift two pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay. Nothing's going to happen to start with. I'm going to go ahead and select these. And then I want to come back up here to object captions. And now because I have things selected, I can choose live or static. I'm going to go ahead and choose static. And it's going to apply them. So by default, it's applying the correct style. I had a problem, and when I was working on this, it wasn't always applying the correct style. If that happens, make sure the character style is set to none. For some reason, it was wanting to default to this caption bold at one point. Obviously, some of these are going to the second line, so you may have to edit. But again, mine have the .jpeg because that was part of the file name. If you take that out, it should match the file name exactly. But that's pretty quick to get that many pictures in with their captions. Again, I don't know what the data is. Maybe there's a better option. But it'll work the same for the senior photos. I'm just going to apply this on a different master so we can see this. So same thing, same boxes, same everything that you're going to need to come in and override all master page options. Again, don't forget that you can't touch what's down here. I will use portraits again, same ones. I haven't done this one enough to know. This one, my assumption is that you will just have a name list of seniors because that's what it looked like from the file. And you'll go ahead and that text goes here. So you could just place that text and format accordingly. But then getting the photos in, because it's a little difficult. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but to correctly send the captions over here from this photo, they tend to want to go below. So the other option, you could have it drop the caption and just move them over here, but it'll work the same process in order to get those senior photos in place. My grid was a little different. Yours, you were running out of space for names. I was trying to not have names like super compressed. I know that seems to be a default in your books, but I wanted to give the name as much space as possible. You have the room too that if it was going to need to be, like it's too big to fit on one line, you could potentially do 2 lines if you wanted to. You don't have that luxury really here too much. I mean, there is some space, so if you did need to go to, like these ones that go to a second line, we can see there's still some space. Let me just turn off hide frame edges right now. There's still a little space. It's not terrible if you had to go to a second line, but I tried to make it small enough so it could consistently fit. But that's how you would go ahead and put in place all these photos, and I think that's the most efficient way for you to do it. Because like I said, if we're drawing the photo grid, just to make a reference for you, to show you the difference. So if I'm doing a photo grid, what I do is I actually click and hold when I get it about where I want. I'm using the arrow keys to set, I don't know if you can see that faintly, the dash line to set where the margins are and how many columns I have. At the point, I haven't released my mouse, and at the point, once you're putting these dashes in, it goes ahead and it makes stuff, but you'll notice that the dashes are kind of not in the right place for the groups, and there's nothing I can do because it matches the gutter. I've tried every trick I could think of. So by default, it will put stuff in place. Yeah. Um, so this one's not set up to do the automatic fitting. But yeah, it's not as efficient because then you'd have to come back and adjust each of these gaps, which you can do with the gap tool. But while this goes in maybe a tiny bit faster, you're gonna have to do more tweaking. So I prioritize less tweaking over more. Maybe it takes a tiny bit more time, but less having to fuss with stuff, which is usually the more frustrating part, at least for me. And these are by default set to fill proportionally. Again, if you need to edit it, you can. But I think this will be pretty efficient for your processes. I don't know if it'll be faster than theirs or not, but you'll have a little bit more control, and I think your type will definitely look better because it won't just cram it in by default. That's kind of not my favorite part about yearbooks, but that's how you can go ahead and set this up.